both very much. And I'll give you just a little bit about our background. So Accel Foods is its own little startup story. And I think it's just important to understand that we aren't the offshoot of $1 billion fund. We built Accel, launched in January 2014, and our joke is with a $10,000 investment off of our dining room table. And it was before we saw lots of active venture funds in the space. But the concept is can we help early stage packaged food and beverage brands by bringing lots of different resources to them in the areas of both on the operational side, but also on the capital side, distribution side. And so one of the things that we do spend a lot of time with is talking about the brands. The refreshes in particular have become a joke at Accel because every brand gets a refresh at least once. And I think that what we've learned is that every brand is actually refreshing every year. You're always kind of tweaking things, adjusting messaging. So before we kind of dive into that, I just was hoping you guys could give us a little bit of perspective more broadly and from a macro perspective, like what are some trends in the industry that you guys are seeing?
So, we're just at Expo West, right? Massive trade show. Every emerging and established food and beverage brand is there out in Anaheim. And the two, almost yin and yang trends that I think are driving the majority of what we see right now are these concepts of food as medicine and food as poison. On the medicine side, you have function taking over and driving category growth across beverage, across food. You have single ingredient companies, superfoods, acai and kale and chia, all these new ingredients coming onto the market and having entire categories or product lines spring up around them. And then on the flip side, you have certain foods or ingredients that have become dirty words, sugar or carrageenan or other things that we can't pronounce. And I think the industry has grabbed hold of those two things, and they're common threads that seem to be running through everything at the moment.
Yeah, I would add that what we see particularly on the frozen food side is a category that is in complete transition. It's a category that's been boring. It's been stagnating for the past 5 years with pretty much 0% growth over the last 5 years. And it's just starting to pick up again. We see growth again in frozen. And a lot of that is driven by a change in demand from millennials that are coming more and more to the grocery aisles and changing what retailers need to sell. And in frozen, what we see is millennials are coming back to frozen. 43% of millennials are buying more frozen this year than last year. And that's a very important number because they are the future of grocery in general. And they are redefining what the offering is. So it's very important for us to be very close to our consumer base, see what their needs are. KidFresh was started, from a consumer experience, right? For me as a father, but in general, trying to see what trends are. Growth is coming back to frozen.
So interesting. Just to respond to each of you. So then, if you look at cold brew, right, and you say, how are you unique in positioning yourselves in the context of the trends of sort of function versus poison, right, and better for you versus poison? Like, how do you see your role within and how do you straddle kind of the two concepts? I mean, people would say coffee, caffeinate, it's caffeinating, it's good for you.
It's the original functional beverage, right?
It is, but it's also in some, if people do also talk about whether caffeine is good for you.
Totally. A lot of controversy around that. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are in a commodity business, right? So all coffee is caffeinated. If you're looking at pure coffee products, the ingredient deck is the same. There aren't any of those dirty words, aside from maybe the caffeine that you're referencing. So for us, it comes down to authenticity of the brand is, I think, like another theme that is running through a lot of food and beverage right now. And we can get into the various ways that we try to stay very true to that as we evolve and as we scale. But then I also think we have an advantage that other categories don't for all the competition that we receive, right, from competitors, big and small in the space. I mean, you name it, they are in our category right now for the most part. the beauty of it is that 83% of American adults drink coffee, right? So it's a massive market, and for us, it's about how do we serve that in a unique way through our distribution, right? By serving and bringing our products to points of consumption that other people in the industry aren't maybe as focused on. For us, that's office, that's food service, that's direct to consumer online. That's a heavy focus on online grocery, which is growing at 7 times the rate of conventional grocery right now. And it's also a focus on format. I mean, we think we can win by giving consumers at that point of consumption a product that actually fits the consumption occasion better, right? Coffee on tap, in a box in your fridge in the morning at home or at work. Coffee on the go in resealable cartons versus glass or cans. I mean, there are little things that we think, coupled with an authentic story and unique distribution, actually can help us sustain customers, not just attract them initially.
And how big is the cold brew category?
Not as big as people think it is. That's the reality. Coffee is a $50 billion category. Ready to drink coffee, with Starbucks being the giant in that room, is maybe 2.2 billion of 50. 2.5 billion of 50. Cold brew estimates range. The highest I've seen are roughly 500 million, and that would include cafe food service sales, right? So for all of the attention that this category is getting, I don't think consumers have yet found it. Our objective, we are here to become a basket staple anytime you are shopping, right? It's like, your milk, your orange juice, your cold brew. In fact, juice sales are declining so much it might be your milk and your cold brew, or your almond milk and your cold brew. And so, in order to do that, though, it's a massive behavioral shift. We don't view other packaged competitors as the pure competitors. That's the competitor today. The competitor in the long term is the coffee shop, is the single serve pod. It's the Mr. Coffee machine with the grounds that you're putting in it, right? It's with increasing options and with those the general bar of quality being raised, there's now something new for when you want your coffee cold, and it's better than what you were doing yesterday. But that's a behavioral shift, and that's going to take time.
What about you, Matt? You've got some pretty strong incumbents in your category with a lot of money, a lot of resources, but there's definitely a consensus that you're beating them on messaging and articulating sort of differentiation in terms of your core offering. Walk us through a little bit how that's playing out.
Well, in our category, I define our category by frozen foods for kids, right? The good news is a lot of the incumbent brands are terrible. The bad news is that they are terrible. So what I mean by that is they offer products that are poison. You look at brands like, Kid Cuisine, for instance, which was the number one brand in the category for many years. It's a frozen food brand that is loaded with artificial ingredients, colors, flavors, chemicals that you cannot even pronounce. And what that has done is that has given a bad rep to the category, right? Your mom, your dad, you're going to go, buy food for your kids. It's not in the frozen aisle that you will find a lot of excitement, right? Because of that legacy. But at the same time, it's a good news because we have a definite role to play in elevating the quality level of foods for kids in the frozen aisle. Now, there are some other brands like Earth Best, Ian, Annie's that are in the category that do a decent job, but a lot of them are, either premium organic brands that you will find mostly in the natural and organic channel, or they are very toddler-specific, 2 years old, 3 years old, but after that, you don't have anything for your kids. So we designed Kid Fresh as a brand around 4 pillars. First is taste. I'm French, so I will not compromise on taste. My chicken nugget is the best chicken nugget you will find ever. And I stand by that. So taste is number one, but more importantly for parents, taste is for your kids, meaning they need to finish the plate. If they don't finish the plate, taste is meaningless, right? So number one, taste. 2, nutrition. Our nutritional platform, our ingredient decks are the best in the industry. In terms of sodium level, in terms of fat level, in terms of calorie count, in terms of nutrients, you will not find better in the industry. So second, nutrition. Third is convenience. 3 minutes in the microwave, dinner ready. We are looking into breakfast now, 45 seconds, done. With protein, with vegetables, and so on and so forth. And last is price. Kid Fresh was designed to be an everyday healthy brand. We're not a premium organic brand that you will find in the natural channel. We are at Walmart or Target. We are at ShopRite over here, or Stop and Shop. So we are an everyday brand. And these 4 attributes, taste, nutrition, convenience, and price, define us in a unique way in this category.
And it's a lot of information to get on one package.
Absolutely.
And so how do you view new iterations? And it goes back to sort of where I started, which is that there's constant iteration on brand and on messaging. So how have you viewed sort of improvements and optimizing the packaging in the past, few years since you've been doing this?
Well, first we connect with our consumers constantly through social media, being on Facebook, Instagram, and on blogs and so forth. So we hear, we take their feedback, and we hear a lot of feedback. Secondly, we made a lot of mistakes. Let me give you an example. We had a pasta item that was a pasta with tomato sauce and ground meat sauce. And, being French and naive and optimistic, we said, well, let's call it, spaghetti bolognese, right? Of course, makes sense. But, when you're talking to consumers that may be, not as familiar with this type of names, you need to basically present the product as it is. And so we renamed it spaghetti with meat sauce. Okay? Again, these are little details, but a lot of these type of changes help us connect better with our consumer. Even the product namings, we try to be much clearer. We started with fancy and fun names, but people were not really understanding that this was, a chicken nugget. So let's call it a chicken nugget. So really connecting with our consumers, really putting the product first, making sure that since people don't know us yet, they need to know what it is. And when you start a brand, you have a tendency to put a lot of emphasis on the brand because you're happy about, your brand name and your logo and your identity. But if consumers don't understand the product first, then you lose opportunities. So we shifted from brand to product.
And switching gears to you, Matt, your packaging is actually the innovation for your product in terms of getting on shelf, right? With the formats that you're extending to the consumer and the multi-serve,
Right. Yeah. So our first product line, and still our best-selling product line at present, is I think boxed wine, but cold brew coffee inside. Right. Coffee on tap in bag-and-box packaging. We were the first to do it. Now it's been replicated by just about every brand in the category. But hang our hat on that proudly that we started that trend. And part of the challenge, though, especially at the shelf, then, is explaining, to Matt's point, what that is. What is this? Did a box get left from the back wareroom that wasn't unpacked properly? Like, where's the bottle inside? What is in this? And so it was probably, to Jordan's earlier point, maybe our 4th round of packaging iteration, and when we were really getting ready to put that line on retail shelves, something that had been previously sold online only, where the opportunities to explain and educate are just much more apparent. The prompt to the agency was very clear with that product line in particular, the 36 ounce, which was going to be launching at Whole Foods. It was make sure that no one questions or has any doubt as to what this is. Coffee on tap is written all over it. Cold brew is bigger than the brand, to Matt's point of emphasizing category over brand. And the 2 boxes were one of the challenging things we were having as a 1 SKU brand was getting facings on shelf. So we made sure that the 2 sides of the boxes connected to form a bear walking across the shelf. Now we get multiple facings because the merchandisers like the arts and crafts project of arranging our set in the store. And so, it's little things like that, I think, purpose, and place-led design really helped the brand stand out on shelf. in addition to the packaging.
And I think beyond the packaging, another thing you're doing differently is your distribution model. Can you walk us through a little bit of how it's different and how you see it growing from there?
So I think for a brand of our size, certainly, and among brands generally, we're one of the few truly omni-channel brands in terms of both how we distribute today and how we envision launching distribution nationally in the long term. That means we sell across channels, both wholesale and direct, both consumer and B2B. Again, with that intention or awareness of the behavioral change that's going to be required to get consumers drinking ready-to-drink coffee versus freshly brewed coffee. And so with that, our distribution strategy has been focused at putting our brand at point of consumption or as close to a point of consumption for consumers at all points in their the need states, right? So you have the big peak between 8 and 11 a.m. and then you have the other one between 2 and 4. And our goal is to get in between you and whatever you're doing today. So whether that's your walk to the Keurig machine in the office, well, we want to be in the fridge 4 feet before that. Whether the Starbucks is downstairs on the corner, we want to be, sitting on your desk in a single-serve bottle that you bought when you were at lunch, rather than having to go out in the afternoon, for an example. We don't make you travel to the store to get it. We have subscription-enabled online. You can order once online. You can order from Fresh Direct, Peapod, Jet, and soon to be Amazon Fresh. Exciting news. That is. I think probably one of the core pillars of our strategy is be where the coffee drinkers are, and I think it's probably one of the things that got Accel most interested in the early days, or maybe even now.
Or 4 times, even though you thought it was only 3. So with that, you each have extremely different cultish followings with your brand bases. And it's been a really interesting experience for us, as an investor in all these different brands, is to watch the DNA of each company really come to life as the companies are growing. And so with Kid Fresh, my joke is that I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and it's a big part of the secret decision making that's going on at Accel. Is that I'm thinking a lot about the companies that we're investing in from my own consumption habits. And when we invested in Kid Fresh, I live in New York. We have access to all the prepared meals here that everyone has. As Matt said, frozen food is a dirty word in the world, particularly for moms to give their kids. And what I found out when we announced that we had invested in Kid Fresh was all these moms came out of the woodwork that I knew who had never told me that they were consumers of the product. And they said it was like their guilty pleasure that they were giving their kids frozen food, but it was Kid Fresh, and they didn't feel badly, and they were so excited to hear that we partner with them. That was a cult experience, sort of that you had created, where these moms felt like it was really satisfying a need that they had. They were busy, they were working, and they needed a problem that they had solved. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that's sort of come into your innovation pipeline, just how you think about the business in terms of building that loyalty?
I think it comes a lot from the fact that the idea came from experiencing a problem and trying to find a solution to a problem. So my problem was, the lunchbox challenge in the morning, but in general, the problem is, finding a healthy, convenient, and affordable solution to feed my kids. And that's a universal question that parents have. How many times have we seen broccoli fly, and stick to the wall, right? At least I have in my house. So coming from a problem point of view and trying to solve it, I think helps a lot in terms of connecting with our consumers. And we present the brand very much as a problem solver. We are, we are the parents' friends. We are the ally, right? We're here to help. And one way we do that is by sneaking vegetables into the meals. 1 out of 10 kids in the U.S. eat enough veggies. 1 out of 10. It means 9 times out of 10, it's a nightmare at the dinner table, right? So let's sneak in some veggies. Let's try to find a way to do that. And our chicken nuggets has cauliflower in it. Our mac and cheese has carrots in it. Our brand new white gluten-free mac and cheese has white beans in it. So I think, again, getting back to your question about how to connect with these consumers and getting a cult following, it's really about listening to them and trying to offer a solution to their needs.
So let's get a little technical. How do you measure conversion and retention? Like, how do you think about that?
So we have a lot of data that we get from Nielsen, IRI, and also from some of our digital couponing vendors. We do a lot of digital couponing through Ibotta, or we work with Cartwheel at Target, or other systems like that, Catalina, and they get us a lot of consumption data from our consumers. So we have access to quite a massive amount of data. And what we measure is, velocities, so units per store per week, per SKU. How many of these will I sell in a given store per week? Dollar amount, and also repeat purchase. And what we know is that 8 out of 10 consumers that try Kid Fresh for the first time will buy it again. So the repeat, which means loyalty, is a critical aspect to measure, because then from a marketing standpoint, where do you invest your money? Do you invest it in generating trial, or do you invest it in building loyalty? We don't need to build loyalty. That's not where we need to spend our dollars. We need to spend our dollars towards generating trial, and then we have a conversion rate of 80%.
It's pretty impressive. And Matt, you have a little bit of a different approach. And in terms of building loyalty, you guys really started hyper-regional. New York, cold brew, sort of local favorite, delivering to offices. And that was how you began to build your consumer base. Can you walk through how they become cult followers, how that's translating as you expand, outside of sort of those first initial deliveries, and it's kind of been quite an amazing growth trajectory this past year and going forward now.
Yeah, I mean, so our first customer, if we actually take it back to that, our first customer went out of business, and our second, third, and fourth customers ever are still customers. So, yeah, I mean, the longevity there is great, and I think for us, that cult following is really it's a test. For us, the mission again is to become that product or that coffee that you want to drink every day, that you choose to drink every day because you love it. It's your routine. It's synonymous with whatever occasion you're filling with it. When I want iced coffee, when I want cold brew, when I want some cold, whatever that need state is, like I drink Wandering Bear. And so for us, it's the distribution strategy and that mission and the cult following are all really linked. I mean, you ask how we're expanding that. We are leading into new markets with the direct-to-consumer and direct-to-office delivery strategy. We opened our California warehouse this week to start serving the account base we've already built in San Francisco and Los Angeles. That is months ahead. Sorry if this is news. Months ahead from any sort of retail launch in California. But will serve that same objective. It is build the consumers, get the brand awareness, hack the routine before investing the dollars and needing to track the conversion at the much harder to maintain shelf space at retail.
And similarly, so as investors in cold brew, it's a pretty saturated category, but we always have looked at Wandering Bear as being sort of the New York darling. They had cracked the code in a region that was, a dense population. They were going at it from, an omni-channel strategy. And so if you can crack New York in beverage, it's always been historical, real strong sign of strength going nationwide because you have such strong, loyal consumers in New York. So particularly in beverage, that's the beginning of a real, true national rollout. Great. Well, thank you guys. So I think that we're pretty far along. I don't know how we are on time. We have some time. I just thought we'd open it up if anyone has any questions. Oh, great.
Questions for the Bear brand. How did you come up with the name, logo, and does it sell better in California because of it?
So Wandering Bear never hibernates. So that is the brand, right? And after you have our coffee, neither will you. It's strongest on the market by far, stronger than some that label as concentrates. And that's actually something that we're testing to make sure that resonates like you wouldn't believe in New York City. Other markets, we are learning. Does the bear since we launched? So the logo, the identity, the name, all of this really preceded any sort of strategy or knowledge of what the heck we were doing. It was it's of a handful of like visceral decisions that has always felt right. That was one of them. It is original art. We've owned it from the beginning. It had it drawn and designed by hand. But with the notion that if we were building this brand, it was something we'd have to wear every day. I practically do. I don't know the last time you saw me without a wandering bear hat.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Ever.
And so yeah. And then to your point, does it resonate in California? From day one, everyone's asked, "Are you from California?" No,
Yeah.
no. We're not from New York, but optimistic that it is and will at retail in particular.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. I saw a hand raised over here.
I had the same question.
I've got one. Do you do, both of you, your packaging in-house, or do you use agency partners?
Go for it, man.
Mostly in-house. We have a designer. We use an agency to define the template, right? But once you define the template, then the replication into other SKUs can be handled in-house.
How many SKUs in your line?
We have about 20.
So we use an agency as well. Started with freelancers that we would bring in-house for the projects, and now have a design agency based in Boulder that we use.
Me too.
Do we have the same agency?
Yes, you
Maybe.
do. Yes,
Interact Boulder.
yes, you do now.
Let's play.
Oh, no, actually,
It's enough.
he chose someone else.
Well, it's just free plug for Fred and Blake. Interact Boulder. They are great to work with.
Vermilion Boulder.
But you talk to
Yeah.
Interact too.
Yep.
Yeah. In our industry, there are a lot of agencies that the brands are using, but there certainly are a core set that the brands all know and connect with. And one of the biggest things, price comes into play, particularly with brands that are early stage. And so they're looking to find the right agency partner who can scale with them from a cost perspective. So it's very challenging. You won't really see startups or sort of emerging growth brands who are willing to spend an enormous amount of money on the agency work, and so you have to find someone who can kind of work with you earlier on, and then probably grow in the partnership. That's something to think about.
Add something to that. We just literally, started working with this agency in Boulder, and we conducted an agency search before that, and I was talking to my team. I was like, we're in New York City. We must find an agency here in New York. We can take the subway and meet with them and have workshops and discussions. And the reality is that from a cost standpoint, New York was, I would say, 25 to 30% more than what we found in Boulder, where you have outstanding talent. You have a lot of food brands that have emerged from Boulder in general. And so we're working with Boulder.
So to that point, are you guys doing any testing for like your package design, or are you just more viscerally kind of doing things right through your brain, close to it?
Jordan knows I'm like a data junkie. If you offer me data, I will take it, but often can't afford it or to pay for it myself. So yeah, like we could do like bases and stuff. Like if we could do like all the in-home use testing and test net, yeah, we would, and we eventually will. And even like the online solutions that make that more feasible. We're talking. The reality is that so often, at least in our case, innovation is a live and moving product of a series of events, both supply chain and sales related. Right, new capability comes up here, sales conversation pushes you that direction. All of a sudden, you're launching a new product in 3 months. Right, and so the time to think there, it's less about visceral or gut with most things. It's the market telling you that there's an opportunity. You making a decision around capability and then moving forward.
The insights work at this stage is very limited in the industry. It's usually soliciting feedback from major stakeholders and retail partners, and that's just something to understand is that the retail partners give a lot of feedback on package design. So even if you think you have an amazing set of visuals or the formats are exactly how you'd want them, you're going to hear from your buyers what's not working, and they're usually going to tell you that the call outs need to be shifted and that you need to prioritize different call outs that are going to be more on trend. So I'd say that it's less formal But the feedback is constant that comes in, and each team has sort of a different set of practices on how they will also then go out and proactively grab information. Some will use their own social media channels. If they have really strong Instagram follower bases, they could do some sort of survey testing through their consumers that way. Others will do more widespread survey work, just even through something cost effective on their own side. So it's a little bit less formal at this stage. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I've got one. Same question we gave to Seedlit, and I'll ask you each independently. What would you do again, and what would you do differently?
With the packaging?
No, in the process of creating your company and brand.
How much time do we have?
This is the one thing that you wish you hadn't done, and the one thing you're really glad you did.
So the omni-channel thesis for us evolved, right? It started as an alternative channel thesis. It would have been expensive and hard, but I think if we had gone back in time, we would have actually done more sooner. We would have, with the hindsight being 2020, right? First-time entrepreneurs. Not even the pace that we're moving at now, and the North Star that we're aiming at one point wasn't like on the map. Right, it was like this inconceivable thing, and so, hindsight being 2020, would have brought in more resources more quickly to do more faster. I mean, we were not late in this category that blew up around us very quickly with a lot of capital, and we continue to do just about everything different, and we are still here. We always would have done it differently, and so we would have done more different faster. We'd be. So I think that is the hindsight 2020 answer is. I'll think about again while Matt's giving his.
No, I agree with, same thing here. But I would say the thing that I'm glad I did was to start. It's really a matter of deciding and starting. And then it takes a life of its own, right? As Matt explained, it changes every day, but at least you start. And I think the thing that I would have wanted to do differently, I would probably have segmented our product offering a little bit differently. For instance, going sooner into breakfasts and maybe less into meals and single serves. Again, that's more category management, but it's also going back to the point of being a solution, right? Where's the pain point? Well, it starts in the morning. So let's have a solution right there. But again, it changes. It's a constant evolving process.
So I have a question for them.